Hello everyone. So today it's not a painting video, and yeah, I'm still working on quite a few figure repaints. So I want to hold off the painting videos till I'm done with them. But yeah, you'll have more videos soon. So today I actually wanted to make a video addressing a particular question that I've been getting quite a lot from people. So, and the question is mostly regarding what paints I use, and secondly, does it stick to the figure without using primer first? So, I wanted to make a video on it to address it and get it out of the way, because many people have this question, and it becomes very repetitive answering everyone. So the particular brand of paints I use is Gaia Notes. If you can see, it's this one. They have their website on the bottles as well, GaiaNotes.com. So I like them because they make paints that are suitable for airbrushing. So most of the paints that I use are from Gaia Notes, because I do use airbrush as well for I'm sorry, you'll hear some, must have heard some sounds. Those are from my chair, quite an old chair. So I use this airbrush, portable airbrush, to do some basic shading sometimes, and most of the times it is used to give the figure a base coat. So these are the paints I use, and these are lacquer based paints. So from what I have I would say, from what I have searched online, I'm not really that familiar with the chemistry, but basically these require solvents to dissolve, and they are based on synthetic resins. So basically you cannot use water to dilute them. The only other brand that I use is Mr. Hobby, and in that also it's particularly this purple color, because Gaia Notes does not have this specifically, and I can make them out of the primary colors, but it's a bit it's some extra work which I don't want to do, and since it's readily available from Mr. Color, I use this. So on their website they do specify that it is acrylic resin based paint, which is basically lacquer paint. So these are the paints that I use. Now, to work with them you will need some specific stuff like a solvent. So this one is from Gaia Notes again. This is they call it Brush Master. It's a solvent, it's a thinner for paints when you are using them with paint brushes, but I generally use them interchangeably with the airbrush as well, because I can thin it down enough. So there is this. There is also a retarder, which is basically it reduces the drying speed of the color, because these paints, they are very pigment rich and they dry out very fast. So when you're painting you would need to add retarder, and sometimes basically when I have to airbrush I go with a mix of this Brush Master and retarder to make the paint flow easily. But when I'm painting, it's just the Brush Master that is used. Retarder is rarely used. And I think this one was bought like a few years ago. I haven't actually I haven't gone through this bottle yet, so retarder lasts quite a long time. And finally, for tool cleaning you will need another solvent. So this is the tool wash. This solvent is particularly very strong, so it can clean your brushes, your air brushes, very nicely. So this is specifically for cleaning. Now there's also the thinner from Mr. Color. I don't really use it, but because before switching to Gaia Notes, I was using specifically Mr. Color. So, and I'll say, like, there is no artistic choice in this. I just for me it's more based on the budget. So Mr. Color paints are comparatively cheaper than Gaia Notes. So before I moved to Gaia Notes, I was using these because these were the cheapest I could afford. And of course, with that came the thinner and cleaning tools and all those things. So yeah, uh, but again, if I am to compare Gaia Notes and Mr. Color, they have different pigment, I would say pigment density. I'm not sure if I'm using the term correctly, but basically they have Gaia Notes has more pigments compared to Mr. Color, which is kind of, which I would say it's a little different for purple. This one is very pigment rich. It gives you a very nice color when using with figures. That is the only reason I have stuck with this till now. So yeah, this is literally all the things. Let me lay them down and see if I can fit them in the frame. Little out of frame, but I think it's fine. So yeah, this is basically my stash of materials that I use for painting. Now coming to primer, I don't generally use primer, I would say. So here's the thing, you will need a primer if you are using acrylic based paints, because they need something to stick on. That is one important thing. So if you are using the pro acrylic paints which are used for model painting, like Army Painter or those brands, I'm not really very familiar with them because they are very out of my budget. I can never seem to afford those paints, so I just stay away from them. But they are actually good for hobby painting. They are considered good for hobby painting. The issue with these are they can often have it's advised that you should have a well ventilated environment when you're painting with these, because they can have some fumes which are not really as healthy for you as compared to the acrylic paints. So if you can afford the acrylic paints, you will need a primer when painting the figure. And when you're using these paints, it is not really necessary, but I would give you a little warning, because I have never applied these paints directly onto a figure before the figure has gone through some pre-processing. Whenever I get a figure, the first thing I do is dismantle it. So dismantling these figures, the basic step is to heat them, and which I do with boiling water. Now when you do that, many a times, actually most of the times, it manages to remove the top layer, which is the I would say, which is like a top coat, which prevents the colors from fading and basically getting damaged easily. So that thing gets removed due to the heat, which kind of makes it easier for these paints to stick on. So if you are painting a figure directly without dismantling, there are figures which do not need to be dismantled. So if you come across a figure like that and you are getting to painting, then I would recommend using a primer, because that would allow it to stick better. But if you have gone through the pre-processing, there's cleaning, there's dismantling and all those things, then I have never felt the necessity of using a primer with these figures. So I think I've stopped using primer altogether. The only other thing I use is a surface coat, which is used when I modify figures with putty. So after sanding and everything, I'll apply a surface coat of I think 1000 they come in levels, so 500, I think 500, then 1000 the next, and then there is 1500. So I have the 1000, I don't know, should I say grit? It's generally, it kind of relates to the sanding thing, but anyways, I'm not sure what it is, but I use Surfacer 1000 when I modify figures and when I have to paint them. So that kind of acts as a primer, I would say. So, but that is just to cover the uneven texture. So that is also not exactly a primer. So all in all, if you're using lacquer based paints, you do not need a primer if your figure is processed properly or pre-processed properly, I would say, like it has been washed, cleaned, dismantled, and those things. Like it has gone through something that will remove the top layer of the figure. That is why once you are done with painting, you have to apply a top coat to preserve the paint. So yeah, these ones, primer is not necessary, but if you go for acrylics, go for primer. That is important because it will give you a better finish with the figure. So yeah, this was a short video. That's all. And if you have any more questions, leave a comment. I'll try to answer them as soon as possible. And thank you for watching. Bye bye.